In this video, we're taking a look at the battleship of GVM lights, the S300S. In the interest of full disclosure, I want you to know that GVM sent me this light for the sake of this review. However, my thoughts and opinions are my own, and you can rest assured that this is an honest and unbiased perspective. The point of these videos is to ensure that you are able to make an educated decision regarding where your hard-earned money should go, and misleading you is no way to go about that. The people over at GVM do encourage honesty though, even when it's to their detriment, so kudos to them for that. At the time of this video, the S300S sells for around $499, and you can find the links for it in the description down below. This is an exceptionally well-built 300-watt daylight balanced beast of a light. It's constructed entirely of metal with the exception of the knobs and the back where the display and controls are located. The light is a little chunky, some of which is due to the power supply and its placement, and it has a bit of heft too at about 8 pounds. So super cheap light stands are probably a no-go with this thing, but the trade-off is that it's built to last and survive a dry working environment, meaning this is not a weatherproof light. Right now for the setup, I'm using two GVM P80S Daylight Balanced lights, which I previously reviewed and you can find here. The hair light is set at about 10 o'clock, and my key light is at full power using the GVM 26-inch globe softbox, which I also reviewed here. I set these up so that you could get an idea of the difference in light quality and output between these lights. I'm going to post my camera settings below, which will not be changed, and temporarily remove my color grading so that you can see the raw image. Now, we're going to replace the key light with the S300S set at 36% power to try and closely match our current lighting. Now, as you can probably tell, there is a bit of color shift with this light. Despite the fact that both lights are listed as having a CRI of 97+, the S300S leans a little toward green. It's not a huge shift though, so for the rest of this video, we're going to go ahead and correct it. Compared to some lights that are on the market, this one is a relatively simple light in that it does not connect to any apps, it doesn't have any effects, and it isn't bicolor or RGB. However, it does come with a remote that runs on 2 AAA batteries that will allow you to control the light wirelessly, which I sometimes prefer over an app. You can also use the remote to control multiple lights, all together, in groups, or up to 12 individually. Now this remote ships with several different GVM products, and in this case the CCT buttons won't do anything, since as I mentioned, this is not a bicolor or RGB light. If you lose the remote though, you can still control multiple lights by setting them to slave and using one light as the master controller, which I think is a very cool feature that I hope I never have to use. You can successfully use the remote from a pretty good distance away as long as you have a clear line of sight. I was able to get about 40 feet away before the remote became too inconsistent to be reliable. The only downsides that I found are that you can only dim the light to 10% when using it, adjusting the brightness in large increments can be a little slow, and it does feel a little clunky in terms of size. But those are all pretty small things. When adjusting the brightness on the back of the light, it moves in 1% increments, from 0% to 100%, and is pretty linear, which I really appreciate because it eliminates the search for a sweet spot in terms of output. Speaking of output, this truly is a 300-watt unit, and the amount of light it puts out leaves no question to that. This light is seriously bright. But if that's not enough to convince you, I did measure the power of the light with an electricity usage monitor, and at maximum power, it pulls about 295 watts. Like pretty much all lights these days, it does have a fan and it is constantly on. The good news here is that for its power and size, I think the volume of the fan is acceptable, and the RPM of the fan never seems to change. So if you're using a microphone in the room that does pick up the fan, the sound is consistent and easier to edit around. Right now I'm speaking into a Rode shotgun microphone roughly 12 inches from my face, and the audio is being recorded by a Zoom H1. There will be no post-processing in these clips. Now I'm standing next to the GVM S300S set at full power, still roughly 12 inches away from the Rode shotgun microphone, so you can hear how my voice sounds in a worst case scenario against the fan noise from this light. This fan also does a great job at dispersing the heat. I left the light on for over an hour at full power and was still able to comfortably touch the entire body of the unit. The light is also Bowens Mount capable and comes with a Bowens chimney, which secures well, but does unfortunately rattle, similar to all of the Bowens Mount GVM lights that I've used thus far. At this price point, I am a little disappointed in that, simply from a build quality point of view. It doesn't negatively impact the light at all, it just kind of irks me. The included power supply is robust though, comes in at about 16 feet and is pretty universal style here in the US, so replacing it is easy if you ever need to. You'll also get a decently padded carrying bag to keep everything together and safe while in storage or transport. Truth be told, my complaints with this light are pretty minimal and really boil down to potential improvements. With the lighting market becoming more and more competitive, especially with big name brands jumping into the budget market now, there are a few things I'd like to see in future iterations of this light if a Mark II version were ever to be released. First, I'd love to see the rattling of the Bowens accessories fixed. Second, app connectivity and in some cases effects are becoming more and more common. And while not necessary for me, they do feel like they're missing in a new light at this price point. Third, I'd like to see a bicolor version offered, even if it's for an additional price. Fourth, aside from having some heft in terms of weight, as I mentioned, the light is a little chunky. This doesn't bother me, but if you're short on space and need several of these, you might find the size of this unit to be a bit cumbersome. And last, the cable that connects from the power pack to the unit itself sticks out a little bit more than I'm comfortable with. This isn't a huge deal, but the build quality of the jack doesn't feel near as robust as the rest of the light, and I do have some concerns that if you were to bump it hard enough, that it could break. When it's all said and done though, I do think that this is a great product. It's a no-frills, strong, and reliable tool, and whether you're filming personal projects or paying jobs, in my opinion, this light is most likely sturdy enough and bright enough to do whatever it is you need it to do. And if you're upgrading from something like the P80S, the difference in quality and power is night and day. If you have any questions about this light, feel free to leave a comment down below and I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. In the meantime, I want to say thanks to GVM for sending this out to me, and as always, thanks to you for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you found it to be both helpful and informative, and if you did, please consider doing the things that most people on YouTube ask you to do at the end of their videos. I'd really appreciate it. Did you do it?